Hi, my name's Niki. This is the Interventionalist. And today I want to talk about needing someone. The concept of needing someone or wanting to need someone, I guess, or the discomfort with the concept of needing another person. What does it mean to need another person? Um, I guess also at the root of this is the concepts of codependency versus interdependency. I think that's like the root of this conversation. But I really want to talk about it because for a few reasons, but I think first I'll probably talk about this mostly in relation to romantic relationships. But I think this extends far beyond romantic relationships. However, I'm just gonna probably like focus on that particular dynamic. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because I have a friend who's recently dating for the first time, and she has trust issues like we all do, and I have a lot of friends who have expressed the same sentiment as she has to me as she's going through this for the first time. And it's how she's very, very uncomfortable with the concept of depending on someone in any way, shape, or form, but especially a romantic partner or the potential romantic partner. And I think that's why I want to focus a bit on romantic partners, because I do think those relationships are very specific kind of intimacy that can pull out very specific kind of wounds and fears. And so they're often like, they can often be major triggers regarding whatever potential traumas or I guess issues you could call them, I don't love that word, that we've accumulated through past experiences with various other kinds of relationships, familial, platonic. And she was just talking about how she's so just uncomfortable with it, and kept reiterating how, this person that she's seeing, how like, I don't need you to text me. I'll be fine if you don't text me. I don't need you. Just like keep reiterating that idea, the safety that comes with being like, I don't need you, but I want you. And I think that's really healthy and important. And I think when entering into a romantic relationship, that is where you should be. You should be in a place where you don't need this, because you don't need theoretically from a romantic partner them to immediately be in some way or another someone that you have to rely on to sustain yourself in some way or function, so you can want it rather than legitimately need it. Because people have needs, like actual needs, and need support or specific kinds of caretaking and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're going into a romantic relationship, like that really should not be why you're going into it, right? Like for them to be theoretically maybe a caretaker, or you're going into it because you want it. It's that kind of dynamic. And so I think when you go into one, it's really healthy to be like, I don't need you. I don't really need anyone when it comes to like romantic relationship, but I want it. And that's where she's at, and that's the sentiment that she keeps expressing, right? But she keeps going back to this like, and this is not just her, this I've done this, my other friends have done this, and we've had a lot of conversations about this, but like, I don't need you. I don't need you. And it's interesting because whenever I hear that, like that repeated sentiment, I often think about like what it would feel like from the perspective of the other person, right? Like if I was dating someone and we were in a relationship, right? Like I was now like genuinely with this person. It's not like the first week or whatever of dating. Like there's actually a relationship that's been built. And they continuously would like repeat over and over again, I don't need you. I don't need you. I don't need you. I think it would sting, I think. And it's not because I want someone to rely on me, but I'd like to think that like the person that I'm with knows that they can depend on me and wants to depend on me. And I think romantic relationships, if we want them, fulfill a need. We have romantic, if you are someone who experiences romantic desires or attraction, those create needs. And so we have romantic needs that we need fulfilled if we're going to enter into a romantic relationship. So if we want a romantic relationship and we're going to enter into one, like it's going to have to meet those needs, or it's going to be an unfulfilling one. And so if you enter into a romantic relationship with someone and they're like, I don't need you, I don't need you, I don't need you, I guess it would kind of, I think, maybe instigate a bit of feelings like, damn, like it's really, this is not that, maybe that impactful, or maybe like I haven't done enough to show you that there's a safety to experience interdependence here, right? Like, so when I bring up like interdependence and codependency, I think it's like important to define them, because I think that's the root of the conversation. And the definition of interdependence, if you just search it up, is the dependence of two or more people or things on each other. And codependence is excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. So what I said in the beginning, like when you enter into a relationship, you shouldn't enter it with like a necessity for codependency, right? But I do think you should be in a place where like you can experience and be open to interdependence, because I think the point of entering into specific like intimate dynamics with a person is making a commitment to being somebody that they can depend on. And I think it's different to be dependent on somebody versus depending on them. And depending on them to fulfill the needs that you have that have led you to want and desire a romantic relationship, you know? So like there are needs there that when you're committing to somebody and you're taking on a role as a partner to them and they're taking on a role as a partner to you, I don't think it's unhealthy to say like, I mean, I depend on you to meet those needs, because that was like why we're entering into this, and we fit each other and we have those desires and those needs. And it doesn't mean things are perfect. Like people don't meet all of your needs, obviously. But there is, I think, nothing wrong with needing someone, you know, needing someone because you have needs, and like that's just what it is. And there's nothing wrong with having needs. And I think especially in the United States where I am, there's such an immense hyper individualistic culture. And so there's very little, I think, encouragement for community, and a lot of encouragement for detachment, and detachment from, honestly, interpersonal relationships or even interdependence. Like it's kind of a lot of conversation nowadays is like, I owe you nothing. I owe you nothing. A lot of it's just like, I don't know. There's a lot of push for complete individualism. And I think it's sometimes frustrating to see, like I'll see videos of people online or even my friend talking about this, like how they want someone there, like someone that they can trust, someone that they can depend on, that they want to be there for as well, right? And yet they feel like having that need or desire is something that they need to cure, because like in hyper individualistic cultures, it's like that's a problem. You should be able to fulfill that on your own. You should need no one ever. And if you do, there's something pathologically, maybe arguably deficient going on inside of you. Like you need to consistently cure yourself out of needing connection. And I think that's so unfair. And I also think it's so unrealistic to the human experience. I think we always seek connection in whatever ways that we need connection. And a lot of times we want interpersonal connection with other people and seek out interdependence, right? With so many different kinds of relationships, with family, with friends, with romantic relationships, we seek out interdependence because I don't think we want to go through life alone. And I also think there's a reason that so many of us have like these needs that extend beyond things that we can offer ourselves, like to be cared about, right? Like to be seen by somebody. The different kinds of intimacy that you can experience with someone that you feel like a deep desire for, that feels like a need, like to feel a fulfilled life, like that would need to be filled. Maybe it's friendship, you know, maybe it's a strong bond with your family. And some of those things we have no choice but to have to find a way to be fulfilled without, especially relationships you can't choose, like your family. But that's why I think friends, and specifically partners, when I'm talking about partners, you can choose them. So it's different, right? Like you can choose to look for and hopefully find a partner and a connection that can be something that does fulfill your personal, interpersonal needs and like interdependent desires. And I think that's why one of the most important choices in your life, if you are someone who wants to enter into like long-term relationships or romantic relationships, is who you choose to enter into it with, because you get a choice, you know? And I think a lot of it is about honoring yourself and the fact that you do have needs and desires, and it's okay to want to need someone, you know? And I think it's okay to even admit that you need someone. I think the difference is being in a position where if you're entering into like dating, looking for like romantic connection and you're already in a state of like necessity, or in a state where you need codependency, like you need that level of care, or you're gonna have that level of reliance on somebody, I think that's very different, right? But I'm talking about it from the perspective of like having the capacity, like when it comes to romantic relationship, to be interdependent, and like it wouldn't have to become codependent for various different reasons, beyond just maybe like emotional romantic needs, and like wanting your partner to also be your best friend, and they can be your best friend and your partner and everything, but like wanting to fill every role in your life versus like also like going into it and like feeling like, oh, you also need like a legitimate caretaker at this time, which also there's nothing wrong with that, but you shouldn't go into like a romantic relationship like assuming or needing your romantic partner to be that, right? So I'm like looking at it from the angle of you're in a position to experience like healthy interdependence, and struggling to be okay with wanting that. And I think we can really hold ourselves back by not allowing ourselves to feel like it's okay to want to depend on someone or to have needs when it comes to depending on people. And I think that's a really lonely place to be. And I think it's upsetting to imagine like being in a relationship, right? Getting into a committed relationship, spending lots and lots and lots of time and experiences with this person, and then like have them look at you and be like, I don't need you. I think it would sting. And I don't think that has to be an insecurity thing, just because it's like, damn. I think it's more just like, shit, like I want to be someone that that you can depend on. Is it bad to like depend on someone? And if you don't need me, like, I guess, I don't know. Like what role am I filling in your life, I guess, at that point? Am I fulfilling any of your needs, or is it just your wants? And I feel like those are two different things. Like, I think that's actually a real conversation to have, like, because everyone has needs in relationships, and that's how, by understanding what they are and like seeking a compatible partner, you fulfill those needs and you have a fulfilled relationship, or if you experience fulfillment in a relationship. And if someone was like, I don't know, I don't need you at all, I think it would like bring me to have some questions internally about like, okay, well then, like, am I fulfilling any of your needs? Like, are you aware of your needs? Like, I know that like that's a thing, like we're going to have needs in relationships. Like, have you admitted to yourself that you have needs? So therefore, like, am I actually having like an intimate relationship with you, or are you like completely closed off to me? If I ask you what your needs are, like, do you know what they are? Is it okay for you to admit that you have them? And like offer your partner the opportunity to fulfill them, And I don't think it's a bad thing to be someone, I guess, that someone just wants. I think especially when you first meet someone, that's what you want to hear, But also I think after a certain amount of time, it might like sting a little to just be like, well, I just want you, but I don't need you. I think that there's something there that's like so hyper individualistic that is very incompatible with like, I think, a healthy amount of interdependence in relationships. Because I do think theoretically, like, the goal is interdependence in long-term relationships, and co-regulation. Like, that's another aspect of this. Like, we aim to have co-regulation within our romantic relationships and our relationships, but especially your romantic relationships, because they're often the person then like you're choosing to be that close to, and often experience like a breadth of intimacy with that allows them to impact your nervous system and your ability to regulate yourself in a very specific way. And so like hopefully you get to a point where like you experience co-regulation with each other, and you can depend on each other that way, and rely on each other in that way. And I think, if things end, it's an adjustment, and you find your way back to, experiencing a life without being able to rely on someone that way or rely on that person that way. But I don't think that has to be like a terrifying thing, like imagining things ending with someone that you did learn to co-regulate with and experience healthy interdependence with, and you trusted them, and you did allow yourself to feel the safety of relying on somebody, the concept of being someone's person or whatever, like in an agreed upon consensual relationship. And if you lose it, like, loss is painful and it's going to hurt no matter what, but likely you're going to be okay if you entered into it with the capacity to just want it, versus need it, right? Like that codependency for whatever reason. When you leave it, hopefully then theoretically also you're in a position where you didn't need it to actually like function and sustain your life. I think that can change like when you're in long-term relationships. So I can't give a caveat for like everything in here, but like if you're like married to someone and there is a lot of different kinds of like joint interdependence that, goes far beyond things being this simple. But theoretically, like if you entered into it that way and you were able to remain like independent in that manner, you can lose it and you can enter back into a state of like want and not need. But I don't think that means that you have to live in this way that's like, I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone. And I don't need you. I think that's just so isolating and cold. And I feel like almost like a banishment to loneliness and detachment. And I think that's great. But it also is just, I don't know. I guess the reason I want to talk about it is because I think that there's a lot to that that's, yeah, healthy. But also like loneliness rates, like statistically, like we have a loneliness epidemic like globally. And we're already really detached from like, I think our interpersonal relationships, especially like in terms of direct, like physical, like directly in front of you relationships, because things have become so digital. And for that reason alone, like we already are so detached from our capacity to have our relational needs met that further like trying to convince yourself or be expected to never have any needs in terms of relational needs, it just seems painful, And I hear my friends talk about it and they're not happy. That's not a happy conversation when they have it. Like it's not empowering, I think. Like there comes a point where it is empowering and then you're trying to enter in a relationship where like the goal would be interdependence and trust, right? And it just is a battle, like an uphill battle of like fighting yourself to be like, I don't need anyone. Why do I can't get close to you because then it's gonna be like I need you and I should never feel like I need anyone. And what does it mean to need someone? And if I'm depending on you, do I need someone? And I don't want to do that because what if you leave and all this stuff? And it's like, it just adds to this, I think, constant state of anxiety and like self-judgment. And I think it creates this like natural barrier to connect like on a deep, authentic level when you're operating from the perspective of like never allowing yourself to even admit that you need someone or you want to need someone. I don't think that that's a crime. And I don't think that makes you immediately codependent or like have some issue that you need to fulfill internally. I really don't like that mindset when someone's expressing that and then they're met with like, you can fulfill everything that you need internally. Like you're the only person you need. Do all of this inner work, do more inner work, do more inner work. Damn, it feels like you're trying to sell something at that point. Like I think a lot of people reach a state where they're very independent and then they don't need something from like a codependent perspective and they can still feel like they need something to be genuinely fulfilled. Like they have those relational needs. And I think it's healthy to admit that they're needs. And then when you enter into a relationship, you can acknowledge that you have needs and the person that you're entering into it with would be like theoretically taking on like consensually by choice that role to fulfill those needs if you communicate them what they are, right? And then you talk about them and what they can or whatever, and vice versa, you for them. That's why it's important to know that you have needs and what they are. I feel like that's how you find a compatible partner, is admitting that you have needs and then who are you compatible with when it comes to those, because people experience relationships differently and not everyone's needs align with another. Even if you really care about someone, it's not always enough. Sometimes you need different things, And I think it's so important to be able to recognize that you have needs and that you're going to need someone. If it's like romantic relationship needs, you need someone to fill them. You're not going to fill them on your own because they're relational needs. So like, I think it's just, I don't know. It just makes me sad. It feels so, I don't know. It feels like so not human sometimes. Like when I hear that or when I hear like my friends talk about it, I'm like, it's okay, like to want to rely on someone. It's okay to have relational needs. It's okay to not want to be completely alone and on your own all the time. It's okay to want a partner in whatever way, romantic, platonic, familial, but like romantic and platonic, we get to choose and seek it out. So like, it's so important then to admit that you have needs and that would require, because they're relational, another person, that you're going to need another person to help fulfill them. And the healthiest way you can do that is getting to a position where like you're in a state of mind where like you can think clearly about what those needs are and communicate them, right? That takes time. And it takes you being often in like a specific life circumstance to feel that sense of like calm enough so that like this is something you can even think about, right? Like if you're in a state of like immense distress, this is like not something you can even really think about, right? It's like, what relational needs do I have? So there's a lot to be said about like how you can even get to the point where you can have those kind of conversations. But I feel like, I don't know, I honestly just wanted to talk about it because it like makes me sad. I don't like how like hyper individualistic our culture has gotten, or I guess like where I am. And I think it's okay to like admit that you need someone. I don't think that that's a crime, and I don't think it means that you're not self-sufficient or that you haven't done enough internal work, or like a lot of that. It genuinely feels like this so could be tied to like more to capitalism. Like it feels like you're always being sold something like do more work until you need nothing and no one. Work and work and work on yourself. Work until you need no one. And you can sustain a life in complete isolation and being alone. Buy more self-help journals, you know? I don't know, practice more spirituality. Buy like online guides. It's like go to more therapy. It's just trying to work your way out of being human and like having relational needs, your own very specific set of relational needs in whatever way that you have them. And for that reason, like I don't think it's bad to say like, yeah, I need someone. And I want to get to know myself to the point that like I can make that choice consciously based on the needs that I can admit that I have and that they're relational needs. And yeah, I would need someone to fulfill it and admit what those are to yourself, and then be able to communicate them clearly to another person and be able to receive that information from someone as well, you know, and then like hopefully build like a healthy interdependent relationship, whatever kind of relationship or relationships. But I don't know, I feel like this concept of like interdependence is becoming more and more maybe obsolete, like ignored. And I don't think it's an obsolete thing. I think it's a really important aspect of the human experience is like relational creatures. You know, people have different kinds of relational needs, but the concept exists for a reason. Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about this because it just makes me sad every time I hear someone, especially my friends, like try and talk their way out of feeling safe to experience healthy interdependence. And also feel like to protect themselves, they need to reiterate to people over and over again, I don't need you, I don't need you, I don't need you. And it's like, at some point, it's like, damn, like I think you'll push people away that way, not because they want you to need them, but at that point, it's like, damn, do you like, okay, like if you don't need me at all, shit, like at that point, I don't know, it's feeling like a purposeful, like an intentional, like make sure that you know you're at a distance, and I always have a foot and a half out the door. I don't know if anyone really wants to be in a relationship with someone who's always like, I have a foot and a half out the door because I don't need you, I just want this, so I got like half a foot in, and I hope you always know that. It's like, oh, okay, well, how can I rely on you if you're always like a foot and a half out the door? You're not allowing any of your needs like actually be like, I think, authentically known and exercised, you know, at that point, it kind of feels like. And even from the other perspective, like being that person being like, I don't need you. It's like, how close can you be to someone when you have relational needs and you're continuously just like ignoring them by being like, I don't need anyone. Well, you have relational needs and you want to be in a relationship. You do need someone to fulfill those relational needs. So like, how close are you really getting to them unless you can acknowledge that and come to terms with them and share them and open yourself up to them being met and experience the intimacy of trusting someone that way, right? Like it's going to take time to feel like you can trust them to be the person that can be the one to fulfill those relational needs the same way that they'll feel that way about you. But I don't think that that's like a terrible thing. And I don't want anyone to feel like they always have a foot and a half out of a relationship, especially with someone who could end up being a really safe person to develop like an interdependent relationship with, because you deserve to have like healthy, happy, safe, secure, comforting relationships where you can rely on someone and they can rely on you. And that's a beautiful thing. That's like a really beautiful thing that you shouldn't deprive yourself of if you want it, just because you're being sold consistently this idea that like, if you feel like you need someone, there's something wrong with you. Work harder. That's so capitalistic. Shit, like, damn. Really? Like, it's like, I feel so like removed from our existential needs. The core of like being like alive is our connections, and our connections to things and to people and to experiences. And I don't know, erasing interdependent connection from our narrative seems so isolating and just anti-human, I think, and our connection to whatever, you know, so many different things. Our connection to whatever makes us feel happy, that fulfills us. Maybe it's art, you know, your connection to art, your relationship to art, things like that. Like, we have so many different kinds of relationships, but I think that that can extend like into also human relationships, where it's like, I need this thing to feel fulfilled. I need to paint to feel fulfilled. Like, I need to write to feel fulfilled. Like, I really do need it. I need a person to feel fulfilled because I feel deep relational needs. And if you have a choice to pick someone, because maybe your like familial ones aren't meant because you didn't get a choice with who that was, I think it's so important then to really give yourself the opportunity to do that and have those needs met and acknowledge them in a way that like grants you the opportunity to experience also relational healing. If something happened that made you so averse to the concept of interdependence, right? Like, experience what it's like to securely rely on someone and depend on someone and be someone that someone can depend on, while not feeling like you're doing something wrong, or it immediately means that you're not independent, or now there's something pathologically wrong with you, or, you know, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. That's really all there is to it. And I thought I would share it. And I'm sure like there's a lot to be said about this conversation, and maybe like it's easy to disagree with, I guess, but I just thought it would be interesting, I guess, to challenge the narrative a bit about, I don't need this, I want this, and how far does that really go, and like, when is it okay to admit that you do need this in some way, or maybe it's not specifically this, but you need something, you need someone. Is that a bad thing? I think it's okay. I think it's just about getting to a place where you're not going to experience it codependently, especially not right off the bat. But from the perspective of going into it with a mindset of like, the goal is healthy interdependence, you know? I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I've been thinking about it a lot myself, like in terms of relationships. And then also I have friends who are just recently talking a lot about it, who are dating. And I think it's something that like will consistently come up in my own life, and I see it come up in my friends' lives, and I see it come up on videos online, where it's like, you can only do so much for yourself to be fulfilled, if you do have relational needs, and like at some point it's just acknowledging that you have them, and coming to terms with that, you know, and not letting them consume you, so that you feel, I guess, like that sort of pain of desperation, which I think is also really human, but also just coming to terms with them, you know, and not thinking that there's something wrong with it. Yeah, I don't think it's shameful to have relational needs in whatever way, romantic, platonic, familial. I think it's actually quite human. So I just wanted to talk about it, I guess. So if you have needs and you want to need someone, and you feel like it's wrong or embarrassing, or like you should be more independent, there's nothing wrong with wanting someone, and there's nothing wrong with like wanting to need someone, or feeling like you have needs, or feeling like you need a relationship, whatever kind of relationship, to feel truly fulfilled. There's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't make you like a failure, like you're not working hard enough to be completely okay, isolated and alone forever. There's nothing wrong with that. That's completely okay, and it doesn't make you weak, or like, I don't know, it doesn't make you codependent. That's not inherent codependence, you know? So I just hope you know that. It's not embarrassing to admit it. It's not embarrassing to admit it, and it's not a flaw to need someone, or to want to need someone. Yeah, to have this need to want someone that doesn't seem to go away. There's nothing wrong with it. It's so human. And you don't need to like, I don't know, work yourself to death trying to be as independent as possible, and just ignore all aspects of you that like deeply need relational experiences and relationships. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it. So I appreciate you listening and watching. If you watch my videos, I haven't made a video in a while. I'm actually struggling quite a bit with this concept in my life in different ways that wouldn't make sense, I guess, to talk about in this video. But yeah, it's kind of a killer experiencing like or coming to terms with the fact that there are some needs as people that we might have that are relational and therefore like they cannot be fulfilled by solely yourself and finding a way to live like in a way that doesn't consume you when you don't have it, but also acknowledging that there are needs and that's okay. And you don't need to spend your life trying to find a way to fix that. You don't need to fix that. It's finding a way to, I guess, exist in some neutral manner until you can find that. And if you want that, I truly believe that you will find that. You will find the person or the partners or the partner, the relationships that will, oh, it just started raining, so I don't know if you can hear the rain. To find the relationships, whatever they are, that will fulfill those relational needs. So don't forget about them. Don't try and discard them. Don't try and convince yourself that they don't exist. Find a way, I guess, to live alongside them. Let them be a part of you, so that when maybe someone does come along or whatever it is, you're in a position to acknowledge you have these needs and you can communicate them and look around and be like, yeah, this would fit, and I can fit yours. I don't know. It just started raining so loud, so I'll end it here. I'm sorry if you can hear that. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts on this, oh my God, it's raining so loud. If you have any thoughts on this at all, anything at all, if you want to share your experiences with this, or anything else, or maybe you disagree with this and you want to talk about why, I would love to hear it. Whether it's in the comments or you can send something to me directly, my email's down below. I'd be honored to read it, to hear it. And I hope you know that this is a safe space to share. There'll be no judgment. No one's going to tell you like, you need to do more work on yourself. It's bad to need someone. You can fulfill everything on your own. No one is going to say that to you. So I hope this can be a safe space. If there's anything else you want to talk about in general and you need someone to talk about it with, because that's also a relational need and there's no one around you right now directly in your physical real life, or in general that's asking you those questions, to have the opportunity in a relational way to have those conversations or talk about those things that you really need to talk about. I hope this can be a space where you can talk about those, whether it's a question related to this that you wanted someone to ask you or to talk about, or it's something else. Maybe it's not related to this at all, but there's a question that you've been dying for someone to ask you to talk about. Ask yourself it and then talk about it here, or send it to me in an email. Like, I hope this can be a space where you can have like the opportunity to experience like that relational vulnerability, even if it's, digital or online, or it's not as direct. I hope it can still be something to induce like that relational experience and conversation and witnessing. So you always have a place here, and it is just as much your platform as it is mine. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it a lot. It's raining so hard, so I'll end it here. Thank you. I look forward to hearing from you if you have anything to share, and I will see you. Oh wait, also I have a Patreon, and I just had 2 videos go up over there. One's on gender and sex and perfectionism related to gender and sex, and like gender exploration in sex and the impact of perfectionism related to that. And then the other one is on consent trauma and the experience of living with trauma directly related to consent, and the way that it can manifest in our lives. And I'm going to do another YouTube video soon on consent, but that's a more like explicit version of it, the consent trauma video. So if you're interested, those 2 videos are over there. That'll be linked below. Okay, I'll end it here. I'm sorry if the rain is really loud. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Okay.